Vaibhav sir, can we start?
Yeah, we can. Should we?
A very good afternoon to you all. We welcome all of you here, all the respected dignitaries, for the session on the current challenges faced by sector and the intervention required in the footwear sector. We have respected dignitaries, Mr. Vaibhav Chibbar, MD Projects India, Mr. Ketan Sangvi Shoes, Mr. Mohan, Director from Class Group, and Mr. Vipin Seth, MD, Versatile Group. This session will highlight the current challenges, what is the current challenge that is being faced by this sector, and we request our moderator, Mr. Vaibhav Chibbar, MD Project, to moderate the session. Over to you, Vaibhav sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal. It gives us immense pleasure to have our esteemed panelist for the day. And I'm very happy to introduce all of my three panelists, Mr. Mohan, Mr. Vipin Seth, and Mr. Ketan Sangvi. Mr. Mohan has been into the business for the last 35 years, representing all the best of the brands in India. And his extensive experience of taking and nurturing brands in Europe has been recognized by all the councils across the globe. And in 2021, he was recognized as one of the most promising business leaders of Asia by ET Asian Business Leaders Conclave in 2020. His expertise lies in developing new markets due to an adept understanding of his customer requirements and identifying gaps and engineering products to suit them. I welcome you, Mr. Mohan, on this wonderful session. My second panelist today is Mr. Ketan Sangvi, one of the very well-known faces in the country representing Sangvi Shoe Last. Mr. Sangvi is also today the president of IFCOMA, Indian Footwear Component Manufacturers Association. With one factory in 1984, he's today running business enterprises in Agra, Vellore, Kanpur, and Chennai. And Sangvi has been recently in Bangladesh also. Sangvi is nominated and certified as most preferred suppliers by many international brands, and with his vision to innovate consistently, Ketanji is keeping us all inspired with his vision and mission for the trade. I have also with me one of our very dynamic leaders of the component industry, Mr. Vipin Seth, Executive Director for Versatile Group, an engineering graduate from Punjab University, having 40 years of experience of shoe components, specific textiles and based components. He is the past president of IFCOMA, COA member of Council for Leather Exports, and have represented India at major global forums in his journey, and always remains very passionate to take the brand India story and make an India mission to the global markets. So we are also expected to be joined by Mr. Puran Dawar, who is the chairman of Dawar Group. And Mr. Dawar has always been a visionary and today is also the chairman for Council for Leather Exports for North. We are expecting him some time. So to take on the session, may I please request Mr. N. Mohan to take us with his presentation on the subject. Mr. Mohan, thank you.
Actually, FDDA is asking whether they can go on live, so I just told them they can go on live. Sorry. Okay, it's a subject which is very close to my heart, and also, of late with the various footwear being recognized as one of the major focus sector by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it's our duty to kind of keep telling what are the interventions required and how we can build this entire business. The title is quite apt. In fact, footwear business is in India today. It's at the right stage, I would say. I'll start with this. I made a small presentation basically, and just to highlight the opportunities and the potential from the India perspective, both from the export perspective as well as from the domestic market perspective, and how we can kind of together build a footwear growth story. So I'll start with that, and I'll share a few slides, and then we can from there. So I'm trying to put this thing opportunities and challenges. This is what we said, like today we are going to discuss. And the first and foremost thing, this is a slide which is very, very important. See, 2019 numbers are there. 2020 number, I'm talking about the calendar year. The 2020 numbers will be published, say, sometime in April. And this is a World Footwear Yearbook, which is published in Portugal year on year. And if you look at this, the world, we are producing close to 24.3 billion pairs of footwear globally. And it has been increasing. If you see the graph on the left side, it has been kind of going and increasing. And what is more important is how much India's share is there in the entire production cycle. India produced in 2019 2.5 billion pairs, and we consume about 2.6 billion pairs. We produced about 2.5 billion pairs, which is about 10.7% of the world share. We are the second largest producer, and China share did drop from 58% in 2017 to 55.5% in 2019. And unfortunately, the drop in Chinese business benefited Vietnam and Indonesia. So we need to kind of reflect upon ourselves why those businesses did not come into India. So in the next few slides, I'm going to kind of take you through what are the constraints we have and what are the interventions we need to do in order for us to kind of improve the footwear industry substantially. Leather footwear is about 38% of the total global exports. It has fallen down from 54% in the last 10 years. From 2009, I'm comparing the 2009 numbers to the current number. So we need to kind of take cognizance of this. And if you look at the consumption in our country, that is again, it's a phenomenal opportunity. I'm just comparing 2016 to 2019. These are published numbers from World Footwear Trade Book. And if you look at the consumption, we are the second largest consumption globally, surpassing US by about 200 billion. I'm talking about the numbers. I'm not talking in terms of value. So the per capita consumption also has really gone up from 1.7 pair per person to 2 pairs per person in 2019. We would treat the 2020, which is a COVID year, separately. I don't want to put those numbers, and that will be kind of a discouraging. So what I'm trying to highlight here, even an increase of 1 pair in per capita consumption in India to match China, we will need another 1.2 million pairs more will be consumed. That's a kind of a consumption story which is sitting on the domestic market. Additionally, India, as you know, avails a huge labor availability advantage and the government support for the sector. If you look at the exports, these are calendar year, and I think they'll slightly differ with the financial year exports. Our exports have been kind of more or less, we are at $2 to $2.5 billion. That has been our export. Okay, last year, I don't want to compare, our exports are down by about 35%, but it's a temporary thing. But if you look at China's at the same period, they're at about 45 billion US dollar in terms of exports. So there is a phenomenal opportunity today with the world, in the last 6-8 months, we have been engaging with various footwear retail organizations across the globe, like the FDRA or British Footwear Association and the European Consumer Association. There are so many meetings which we have had from my role of mentoring Invest India on the leather sector. Everyone is saying, look, the world wants to move away from China. They want to come to India. That's been the feedback, but how is the question which we need to. There is a market which is existing. There is an opportunity which is there, but how we as a country is going to kind of utilize that opportunity. That's what, we need to look at it. what is our cost advantage? This is actually, if this is a thing which we do with the ex FDRA chairman on a yearly basis. We do the chart. This is number of 2017-18. Roughly, it is almost the same. 17-18 is $65 an hour is what India's cost is today. Compared to, if you look at China, is about $2.40. And if you look at Bangladesh, it's about 68 cents. And if you look at Vietnam, it's $1.60. So we have a phenomenal advantage in terms of labor cost comparison. These are including all benefits per hour costs. What are the challenges which we are having here? The challenges is there is lack of investment in manufacturing infrastructure. This, if you look at over the last 2-3 years, there had not been a huge investment which had come in exports, manufacturing as such. I'm comparing country as a whole. There had been pockets of investments, but if you look at overall investments in country, especially in the export industry, it doesn't come up to that extent. Then there is a fragmented supply chain. We have supply chain factories located all over. See, in China, what we call it as a clusterization, that has happened to a large extent in Agra, Kanpur, and as well as in Ranipet, Ambur, and Vaniambadi in that sector. But nevertheless, there is scope for improvement. Then improvement of productivity and constant reskilling of workforce. This is something which we are kind of ignoring. In India, for example, we say the labor is cheap, but we need to continuously kind of multi-skill the labor and then look at China had the same problem about 10 to 15 years back when I used to kind of work out of China. They also had at that point of time the labor cost advantage. But the labor cost advantage, you will lose it as the comparative cost theory tells you. The rate of growth of economy in a particular area is inversely proportional to any labor intensive industry. We are in a labor intensive industry. As our economies grow up, the labor costs are going to go up. So we need to kind of look at how we can kind of multi-skill our work. We need to lack of innovation. This is another thing. Lack of branding. Branding in the sense I'm not saying what we always had in our, I've been in the exports trade for more than 3 decades. Mostly the statements have been, this is what we are capable of making, and we have a substantial price advantage over. The price is a USP, the cost of conversion is a USP. So we need to kind of reinvent ourselves and need to kind of think a little bit through and then say that what is it we can do to rebrand ourselves as a country? Can we be someone who can, the customer pays for the value what you create for them. If you design, develop, and deliver at the doorstep, there is different levels of value which you provide, and based on that, the customer gives you a price. Then, like if I have to take with the Vietnam experience, if you look at Vietnam, there are huge trade pacts with various countries. This is one area where we need to work as a country. And we are over dependence on a market and type of product, and we need to diversify our portfolio. Of course, if you ask to a global buyer in India, why do they come India for? They come mainly India for men's leather footwear or women's sandals. There are many other opportunities which we have. Like we can diversify the opportunities. If I look at it, we should invest in infrastructure and create footwear clusters. This is a policy which the government is also pursuing. This because the cost of capital is very high in India. The land costs are high, and it's quite high. So if there is interventions there, and if we can create footwear clusters and then bring in the plug and play model, and I'm sure we'll be able to attract a lot of investors coming into India. Create an ecosystem for components and materials. See, we have been kind of, everyone says, okay, India, I'm sure Mr. Sanghvi and Vipin Seth would cover a little bit more. And here we need to support the component players, because if the component players don't expand, we can't produce the shoe. So there is something which we need to do to improve and encourage the component players to develop the skill sets and also develop bringing more innovation and materials into the business. Then reskilling, focusing a skill set of workers through tie-ups with Taiwanese and Brazilian manufacturers. This is something which we have to do. Improve tape policy. Look at, like now we have got Biden administrations in the US. And definitely, people are going to talk about the TPP, which almost went through when Obama, Democrats were there, when Obama administration was there, when Trump came in, the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Pact was ignored. So we need to kind of have enough noise create, because such things will be detrimental to India's exports into the US. So we need to engage a little bit. So we need to have a lot of people kind of talking about India and the India story. India is no longer pulla cards and snake charmers. It's a country which is completely different, and we need to tell that India story very, very effectively and powerfully to the consuming countries. If I look at the domestic market, because I had worked all my life in exports, and what intrigued me is a project which I did for my doctorate on the domestic footwear industry in India. If you look at the domestic market, we have been growing at a very good pace in the country. Pre-COVID, we were at 80,000 crores. This is the estimated retail value of the country. And okay, COVID has hit us, and we came down. In 2021, we are estimating to be about 60,000 crores. And it is slated, this is based on the research which we conducted recently for a different project. And we put two research companies to kind of work on what are the grades. People are saying between 75,000 crores to 85,000 crores is what you can expect by the next 4 or 5 years. Say it can come close to 100,000 crores. So the market has been witnessing a good growth. And look at the key drivers are increasing disposable income, higher spending of lifestyle products, increase in number of working women, increasing adoption of trends owing to versatility in its usage, increased reach of mid and economy brands to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And from our brand perspective also, we feel there are a lot of aspiring population live in tier 2 and tier 3 uh, uh, locations of this country. So we have a phenomenal opportunity. We, in fact, engaged with the manufacturing, with the retailers, and then we just did a simple thing, which I did for the non-leather footwear report, which was kind of published by Invest India also. So we engaged with a lot of retailers and a lot of manufacturers and a lot of mid, small, big manufacturers. So it's just a calculation, if we produce, say, 1,000 pairs in a day and sell this entire 1,000 pairs in our country only, what are the kind of employment it is going to create? So we arrived at it from components to manufacturing, from 50 to 250 people in manufacturing, and also in retail, about 125 pairs. So you can create about 425 jobs for every 1,000 pairs sold in this country. So look at it, 60 to 70% of the shoes sold in India are manufactured domestically. It can add at least 350 jobs per 365,000 pairs of shoes sold in a year. So, if the per capita consumption goes to, say, 1.2 billion pairs further by one pair more, so we have a huge opportunity of creating employment potential. That too, this trade predominantly employs women from underprivileged sector of the society, and then it's a great opportunity to it's a good employment story which we can tell the government. What are the key challenges? Retail in India, for example, in domestic market, it's still largely unorganized, and number of spaces available are very low. Consequently, the occupancy cost, which is the rent from CAM as a percentage to the sales in India, is very high compared to other leading nations. With such high occupancy costs, retailers need to innovate and use digital. Digital is more like a unified commerce, with high GST rates, it's making the products a little bit more expensive. So what are the opportunities which you have? We can explore the opportunities to grow the retail using e-commerce and find synergies between the brick and mortar and digital. And the new word, unified commerce, which I say is really the vaccine for the retail COVID. That's something which had been emerging quite well, and we have been very successful in our business. And this is something which we cannot ignore going forward. The brick and mortar retailer has to have a digital presence and vice versa. Use e-commerce innovatively, not just as a discount-driven platform. Many of the platforms today in e-commerce are discount-driven platforms. So we need to kind of bring in the convenience bit and then try to use it in much more effectively. Integration of channels and warehouses to drive the next phase of growth. Use of data science to better serve the large market, better serve the target market, and rationalization of GST. This is something which we have been discussing quite a bit, because if the GST about 1,000 rupees can come down to, say, about 12% from the 18%, will that increase nominally the consumption. So, in our opinion, how the retail is expected to evolve, there's going to be constant demand for change, for newness, and much shorter design to retail cycle. This is going to be across the board. And 3D printing is going to evolve, especially in the design creation and in the factory. And AI-driven forecasting for capacity planning and merchandising, that's going to be there. And augmented reality, contactless shopping, and blockchain method to track origin and the journey of products. These are some of the things which are already evolved in the Western world, but India will catch up very fast in the next 4 to 5 years. I feel the retail is likely to evolve this way. So what are the key interventions we need in the exports as well as in domestic market? Exports encourage large-scale players to set up ventures in India through the FDI route. The global supply chain is changing. Currently, the investments are not forthcoming in this sector, which I touched upon. So, what is happening in the marketplace, the difference is the brands want to concentrate on their way they would kind of on business development and product development and focus on the DNA of the brand. And there is a role for the supply chain integrator to provide values in terms of design, developing, sourcing, and deliver at the doorstep. The retailer wants to concentrate on the return on his shelf space, and he also wants to kind of, focus on it. And then he wants to leave the manufacturing and the supply bed to the efficient supply chain integrated. That's why all these Taiwanese companies are very successful. Fung Thai, Nike doesn't own one factory, whereas they have globally 6 strong supply chain partners who travel with them to various locations around the world. Like we have Fung Thai here producing 30 million pairs a year. They have a factory in Vietnam. They were in Indonesia. So they travel with the brand around the world, and create facilities for them. Focus on adjacent segments like women's footwear and non-leather footwear and create an ecosystem for components. Non-leather footwear is something which we are ignoring today in this country, because that is something which can really, because if you look at it, 86% of the shoes consumed worldwide, that too worldwide in terms of numbers, are non-leather footwear today. So that is something, which we need to kind of look at it at a much more focus, and definitely component players can help us in that process. Study the plug-in model of China and create footwear parks, focus on trade packs, focus on large consumption markets like US. That's what, which we need. We never got that right, so we need to focus quite a bit on the US market. Domestic market, I would say rationalize the GST, as that would improve the consumption, will create jobs. Remove the ambiguity on BIS standards. Indian industry cannot afford another disruption. It's nice, like we are in a, today 4 to 5%, our research says 4 to 5% of the footwear that is made or use industrial footwear. 90 to 95% of fashion footwear. So we need to kind of agree on an internationally acceptable standards. Otherwise, we'll create a lot of disruption in the market, and then many SMEs and MSMEs will be affected very badly. There's another thing. World looks at India both as a sourcing base as well as an emerging consumption market. We have to be very careful and not to give an impression of a protectionist country. So when you go and approach the brands around the world and you ask them to come into India and source it, when they do that, they always look at India as a market because we have second largest population in the world, and we have a good consumption story. So we need to kind of be a little bit careful in the type of image which we will kind of create. And again, I would say competition is a must to inspire and improve the industry quality standards. It's very important. The competition is not there, then everybody becomes complacent. Collectively, in conclusion, I would like to say India has a huge potential both to play an important role in export as well as in the domestic consumption story. However, we have to come together as manufacturers, retailers, academia, and trade organizations. You might ask me how FDDI can play a role. In fact, this has been my, in one of my last year's, knowledge festival where I had mentioned about, we must look at the institutions following the dual, learning system of Germany. Like while the students are studying in FDDI, we should kind of, get into a kind of a partnership with all the manufacturers, and perhaps the students should be allowed to go and study work in the factory for 6 months or something like that. Then they will be able to relate to all the theories which they are learning at the classrooms. So this is something which we have a phenomenon, which we need to rethink the whole thing, how we can reskill it. Because if we have decided to kind of create such a large industry in the country, which there is a huge opportunity now, then we need to completely change our thinking. There is an opportunity to grow exports to 5 to 6 billion, almost 2x from the current level, and also look at 12 billion US dollars in terms of domestic consumption, approximately 90,000 crores. So there is a phenomenal opportunity to grow this, business to 2x. This is what, I would like to conclude in my thing, and we need to create a bold vision and involve the industry as a whole, and then get going with it. With this, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. You have always been very, very inspiring with the numbers and your way forward thinking. And we all take a lot of learning from you whenever we hear you. And we will take up a lot of questions because there are a lot of questions coming on to me for you specifically on the subject you have taken. But we will take up in the question and answer sessions. And thank you so much for a lovely presentation and the words you have shared with us. Also, now may I move to Mr. Ketan Sanghvi for his opening remarks on the session. Mr. Sanghvi, thank you.
So you need to unmute, sir, Ketan sir.
Respected Sri Mohanji, my industry colleague Mr. Vipin Seth, officials from various ministries and associations, colleagues and friends. Namaskar. Actually, I've been brought in at the last moment, so I have not been able to make a proper presentation, just like Mr. Mohan, who has given such a wonderful presentation, given a lot of information and knowledge and ideas. So the various economic stimulus packages announced by our government has led to an increase in saving and spending power of our customers. Consequently, despite the hardship of pandemic, sales of all consumer goods were largely unaffected. For sure, leather footwear will make a comeback as people step out in India and worldwide. Indian footwear has opportunities to take away market share from Europe and China, where the costs are higher. Leather has been going down, but fashion is cyclical. But if we are not prepared, the resurgence of leather will go to Bangladesh, Vietnam, etc. For this, it is important for us to present to the buyer a strong value proposition in terms of quality, price, delivery, and the most important, reliability. Government efforts of Atmanirbhar Bharat should be encouraged in such a way that the local industry can organically replace imports without sudden imposition of duties and compliance norms. Compound industries are willing to step up if we are able to address our cash flow issues and also have access to low-cost capital for expansion and modernization and to the latest technology. Environmentally conscious manufacturing is not cheap, but it's a big gain for those who are able to achieve it first. India is well placed to grow at a rapid pace, provided we get our priorities right and our act together. Thank you and Jai Hind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sanghvi. I think, and thank you for joining us at the last moment. But we really wanted to have your inputs as the leader of the component industry for the great session. So now I have Mr. Vipin Seth with me, who has been a very passionate and very vocal industrialist on the various scenarios on the components of India, and has been integrating his ideas and resources for the development of the sector. So may I have Mr. Vipin Seth for his opening remarks. Thank you.
Namaskar to everybody. Mohan Saab, Ketan Sanghvi Saab, and the dignitaries present. You have heard Mr. Mohan, and he has given a good statistical data, which I think I should not repeat it. What I found is that our country, India, has a deep-rooted connection with the footwear sector, as we have grown from the time when simple padukas were worn by the priest to the modern time when the majoris and jutis are patronized by Rajput and Mughal ruler. Today, India is second largest producer footwear in world, and this sector contributes about 2% of Indian GDP. Even our honorable Prime Minister, under the initiative of Make in India, offered tremendous support to this sector, and the footwear segment is now being considered as the champion sector. If we go for a global scenario, India's current market size of footwear is 10 billion, 10.6 billion or 11 billion. If we see the total global, it is 365 billion, and which is estimated to be reached on 530 billion by 2027 with a compound annual growth of 5.5%. When I see the chart that the growth is estimated, so I feel that there is a future for our industry. And that future is also for India, because India is the second largest manufacturer and the second largest consumer. What Mohan sir has declared is that per capita consumption from 1.7, if it is increased to 2 also, 1.2 billion shoes more will be required by the India. Still, see, there are the advantages for setting up an industry in India. The footwear sector in India now is de-licensed, de-reserved, paving the way the growth of capacity and the modernized state-of-art of machinery. The government has permitted 100% foreign direct investment. India is the second largest producer and consumer, 11.7% of the footwear in the world, and one of the global leaders in the footwear production also. When I come to the opportunities, I've already declared this 1.7 pairs to 2.2 pairs. Definitely there is lot of scope. Over the last 3 years, India has surpassed US in terms of the consumption by volume. This is also a positive figure that we are going to consume more, so we have to produce more. And advantages of one of the youngest population in the world, and this provides us the opportunity to tap the rising demand of athletics here. Definitely the youngsters who are there, they are more of focus on casual and synthetic and sporty shoes. The consumption can be. Global trend is shifting from leather in footwear and to non-leather material, mainly because of increasing awareness about the sustainability and its relatively less cost compared to the leather. The non-leather shoes is becoming very important in our sector. What Mr. Mohan said also, that 70% of the production comes from this sector, especially from the unorganized sector. India has a unique advantage of terms of competent labor and infrastructure. E-commerce. See, e-commerce during this COVID time, the sale has increased. So this is not going to be stopped. It will continue it. It is easy to buy a shoe on the e-commerce and all that. In order to spur the local medium small enterprises that are involved in manufacture of footwear, the Union Budget 220 has pushed to increase the custom duty from footwear from 25 to 35%. So again, it is an opportunity when the cost of the import of the shoes is going to increase. Definitely, we have to produce more. We have to produce a cheap shoes and also to give it to India. We can focus on the defense sector also, where there is a huge demand, I tell you. The government should put up special unit for the defense also. Why we should import from Israel and other places when India has a strength? And I would also like to check, make a note to the government also. The school shoe. Why the school shoe should be import? What is the reason behind it? I saw one school where a Yearbook Adidas shoes of 2,000 rupees is given to the kid who is entering the school. Why? Those shoes can be made in India. those shoes can be made in India. Why not we should make it in India? The government should rather ban it, that no school should be allowed to import the shoes. It should be produced in India. If during COVID time, PP gown and mask, we have made ourselves Atmanirbhar. Why not shoes? We can make our shoes also. We can make India with our Atmanirbhar platform. We can make it. See, there are challenges which already Mohan sir has covered. I am not going to repeat it. That dependency of the China and meeting issue relation China. The challenges also are today in last 3 months. The raw material cost has increased. It is from 30 to 70%, which is right now it is killing us. The government has to see how to decontrol the prices and all those things. There are some material which is not being made it in India, like EVA for the soles. Reliance used to make it. Now they are not making it. The government should look at it. Why not the Reliance should make it? It should be available to India. And they should see it also that the prices of the raw material, where they can control it. My suggestions here: promotion of indigenous manufacturing of raw material, PVC, PU heels, sole, hardware, and other component. See, the footwear manufacturer in India, they should do the development from the Indian raw material only. They should not start developing the material by taking it imported material, asking us to copy it, which is sometimes become difficult also. So it is better that they should do the development from the Indian material only. And government should incentivize the manufacturing of raw material and the footwear component by changing the policies, by reducing the import dependency and help reducing the overall manufacturing cost. Here comes the government role, especially the IDLS scheme, where the government should be little liberal towards the component industry to give them the maximum benefit so that they should get motivated to bring the more investment. They hardly give 20% or 30%. Rest of the things, rest of the amount comes from the manufacturer side. So they should be little liberal. This facilities of plug and play facility factories, definitely China has advantage. India should also do it. The footwear sector worker, including the and the technical training to the employees also. Yes, the institute like FTDI, they should have better trainer also, technical knowledge. They should take the technical knowledge of the component from the component industry also. And what Mr. Mohan also said and Mr. Sangvi also said, the students can go for a training in the component industry also to gain the knowledge of the component quality and the uses of. Promoting of ecosystem, definitely I am in favor of that. GST 12% overall, the demand is, I think the industry is knocking at the ministry again and again. The 12% overall, if you get it, instead of 5% and 12% and 18%, let it be a uniform GST with which definitely a shoe manufacturer can gain it. Rest, my conclusion is that let us grow together, use Indian component and bring India on the front. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Vipinji, for your lovely words. I think we are still looking forward to one of our panelists to join us, but we are not very sure about it. So we will directly now take on some questions which have come to us from various parts of the country and the people who are watching us live on various digital platforms. So my first question, and there are a lot of questions for Mr. Mohan because his experience of taking brands global and serving the global brands in global markets. So my question to Mr. Mohan is like vocal to local for going global. Mr. Mohan, how do you really see that this mantra is being taken by the industry for serving the global markets?
Thank you, Mr. Chirwa. See, as I started in my presentation, we have a phenomenal opportunity on the vocal for local and taking it for. But one is, while on one platform we want to do everything for India, at the same time, in the global market, if you want to be competitive, unless and until you have proper benchmarking and you have some inspiration and innovate yourself on a regular basis, we will not succeed. Like I'm saying, I'm putting the reality of working internationally for more than 20 years in various locations around the world. I want to say that the life is not that, many of my exporter friends will tell you, the life is not that easy there. We need to continuously innovate ourselves. We need to kind of continuously design, be it development, be it service, be it new components and other things. We need to continuously innovate. So it cannot be done just by one individual. It has to be like a movement for the entire industry. Everyone has to come together. Like I'll tell you, recently CLE and SIFI came together, and Retailer Association of India. All the three of them came together to debate on and brainstorm on the BIS standards. I'm saying like it was a 3 hour very well spent, in the sense that everyone had a point of view, and then we have been able to come together as an industry. So if we want to kind of improve really this industry, we need everyone. Like I started my entire this thing, Mr. Sanghvi is there, Mr. Vipin is there, they are veterans in the component industry. The components need, if you don't have components, you will not kind of deliver excellent footwear. So we need to kind of encourage the component industry. We need to kind of handhold them, try to tell them like what is it we need, and what are the various things. So vocal for local, to summarize, is an excellent thing to start off with. But how do you get there? Because we are not an evolved industry like an engineering industry, or for example a steel industry or a cement industry or any other. We are a mostly unorganized. So if you want to organize all these people, you need a lot of hand holding, and we need to be a little bit patient. This is what I would like to kind of say from my side. If
Yeah,
Mr. Sangvi or Mr. Vipin said would like to add on whatever I said, they're welcome.
You said very correctly. I tell you, the confidence level is required from the shoe manufacturer. I tell you, I have seen sometimes the shoe manufacturer doesn't feel that the component industry is strong or not. They should motivate them. See, when they give a development, also they should tell them that I want it. I tell you, I want it. I want it, and definitely we will be able to develop it. And it has happened in 20 years back also, when Echo and Gabor came to India for developing some material. They were buying it from Europe, and we produce in India at a 1/3 of the price also. So, see, development, original development should remain with the manufacturer who has developed it, and make the model out of that. And business also. See, understanding it. What happens sometimes? The shoe manufacturer get it developed from one person, and after that, when the bulk order comes, he goes to the cheaper version of that material also, which we should stop. That is my submission. That is my submission. So
yeah,
definitely we are interested. We are, see, our industry under the leadership of Mr. Ketan Sangvi, in, I will say, in last 1 year, we have changed the mindset of our member also, that we have to produce the best quality and vocal for local. That is also our agenda also, and Atmanirbhar is also our agenda also. And I hope we will be able to achieve it. If the mask and PP gown can be produced, why not shoe component? Why not shoe component?
yeah. Thank you, Vipinji. I have a very important question coming my way to Ketanji, for because he leading the very important component sector of India. Atmanirbhar Bharat, Ketanji, in the footwear sector, how do we really together achieve it? And matlab, there is so much competition coming from Taiwan, so much competition coming from China, and we are under COVID, and there is a huge loss which is happening all across various sectors. But in the leather sector, how do you feel that Atmanirbhar Bharat can be one mission that can be taken up by the industry to the vision of the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, for a $5 trillion economy?
First of all, sorry, I have to say this: the shoe industry and the comfort industry both need a mindset change. So we have to learn to trust each other, and we have to accept that we are partners in progress. That is, I think, that is the starting point. Rest, things will follow so easily. And yes, competition is there. There are certain products definitely that are far cheaper and widely available abroad. And there are so many products that we are making. And as we say, Tali do aste bache. So we also, as a component, we are dependent on the shoemaker much more than the shoemaker is on us. Because they are my customers. They have, shoemaker as suppliers. So they need to, we need to have a good working partnership and understand each other's requirement and see how best we can achieve it. Technology, we still lack technology in some sectors because the world is moving very fast. And the world, when we say the world, we talk China, Vietnam, they are the pioneers or they actually run the show. Let's accept it as a fact. But okay, having said that, we can bring that all to India. That's why I said we need to have latest technologies in India. That is more important, and technology is costly, very costly. So we seek government help in whatever way possible to bring newer technologies, newer machinery to India. Is it okay or sure?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ketanji.
Sorry,
It's all right. It's all right. Thank you. So my another very important question for Mr. Mohan is in the current scenario, India needs to speed up, skill up, scale up, and we need to do it with sustainability at its core in innovation and design. So how do you see, Mr. Mohan, we speed up our production, we skill up our production, we scale up, and we have to be sustainable in our practices. So, and where there are a lot of talks on innovation and design and development, we have actually been conducting a lot of knowledge sessions with IFCOMA. So, how do you see this? We bring all these points together and grow as a in the sector.
Mr. Mr. Chibo, there were some interruptions, and now can you repeat the question so that I can answer?
Yeah.
Sorry.
There are a few very important points that the industry have been discussing for last quite a few years on speed, skills, scale, and sustainability, right? And how do we all taking the mission and the competition which we have coming from China and Vietnam? How do we all speed up, skill up, scale up with sustainability at its core? My question to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I will answer your question in three parts. Okay. Uh, the first is to look at how the world has changed in terms of design development and innovation. This is something which we need to kind of realize it. The world has changed. We kind of came up from a hand holding kind of a situation. See, we were exporters of leather, raw material, then leather, then shoe uppers, then shoes. So at every stage we had hand holding from the customers who gave us the patterns, designs. So we kind of we were glorified third party converters. Let me put it this way. So that is how we kind of evolved ourselves. There's nothing wrong in it. Every country evolves that way only. So what is the next stage for us? If you look at the how the roles have changed at the for example, I give you an example. I used to work very strongly with a brand called, of course, everyone knows Zara, very, very strongly. And in 2003, when I went there, I'm just sharing a story. 2003, when I went there, and I used to be living in Europe at those times, they gave me 200 pairs of orders, just 200 pairs of orders. They said India is something which we don't understand because what Zara as a customer offers, they offer the customer affordable fashion. So you are dealing with someone who is in the fashion world where they will bring with 6 collections at least in a year. Okay. So when I got this 200 pairs orders, everyone said that, look, it is too short a time to deliver in 4 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. But I'm only why I'm quoting this example is then we have to think about what is it we need to create in terms of an ecosystem to deliver the orders in 6 weeks. So we created a small design development in Alicante, in Elche, in an area where they are located, where the soles are made, and then the molds used to get air freighted within 3 weeks. Then we created a small design development center in Italy, who can kind of relate to the requirements, and then we can do the prototypes very fast, and then do the conversion in India. That is, all the kits come, and then we do the conversion here. So that's how we progressed, and then we could kind of eventually kind of be relevant to the customer, that kind of a customer. So when we step back now and then see 10 years have passed, 12 years have passed, and how do we kind of, India, it's not, in my opinion. One is, the China or a Taiwanese is successful, and Indian, we are not successful. The ability to comprehend the design and create something, engineer something rather, which is product and wise viable at a sustainable, at a cost fashion, is the skill set of a Taiwanese. Which I tell you, we go and we used to go with, I don't want to name the retailers, we used to go shopping with the retailer. We used to go to various, like Koenigshalle in Düsseldorf, or for example, Via Dante in Milan. These are some of the, or even Oxford Street. These are some of the streets where you get inspiration. You get the styles, what is happening in the market, what's happening, and how the fashion guys are the early adopters, and then it goes to the department stores, and finally the food stores. Like that's how the old fashion cycle gets involved. So if you want to be caught up in this kind of thing, so we need to kind of encourage many of those schools to come and set up shop in India, so that we completely think differently. Like, I used to kind of jocularly say, the cultural difference between Taiwanese and India. This I'm being candid because, see, sharing my experience, and I'm being very absolutely candid. Yeah, a Taiwanese or a Chinese, puts the entire infrastructure, he creates the ecosystem, and then he kind of looks for the customer. Whereas in our case, we get the order and then we chase the cow. So it's completely a different mindset actually. First order आने दो, उसके बाद देखेंगे हम. Why? I'll tell you. There is a reason. There is state government participation in those countries. Like for example, many of the provinces, like we have the states, they themselves bring the land and building to and do a kind of an arrangement with the investor, prospective investor, who kind of, so his headache in terms of land building and also organizing the labor is gone. So he concentrates on how to develop business, how to run the whole operation. So that's a difference, basic difference we have between India and China, and also India and Vietnam also to a large extent. So coming back to your question of innovation, how we can kind of, number one, we need to bring, all these innovating schools in India, and then add a part of the curriculum, kind of, make them think differently. Make them think differently. You can create one of the best design, but at the end of the day, it has to be commercially viable. There will be so many designers, like for example, the other day I was hearing to the Mahindra's, one of the senior leaders of Mahindra's in a scale-up meeting. He said that everybody used to send a car design to them. My son is a very good designer. The whole idea is design is fine, but how it can be relevant to the customer. Let me tell you one other example. The customer who's walking into a Marks and Spencer store and the customer who's walking into a Zara store are two different sets of people. You can have the same Oxford in Zara and the same Oxford in Marks and Spencer as a style. But if you look at the last, and if you look at the shapes, and if you look at the entire treatment will be different. Because this customer is a matured customer, 45 years and above. The other customer is a younger customer. So we need to kind of have the mindset to create something, to understand something, what is in vogue, the design bit, and engineer it, fitting the DNA of the target customer, be it a Marks and Spencer, be it a Zara, or be it a Clarks, for example. So we need to understand the DNA of the end customer. So that's a challenge, and we need to kind of build something. We need to create. Textile apparel industry has done it very well. But I'm saying like footwear industry can do it also very, very well. But footwear and apparel, I'm not trying to justify my footwear people here, but footwear is a different thing. Many people get confused with apparel and footwear. Footwear is not only expected to be fashionable, but also expected to be functional. We always say it's a combination of art and science. So that's why we need to kind of have a change in our mindset, which like Vipinji and Sangviji also has touched upon, and look at, we are all in it together. Component industry, retail, manufacturing, we're all in it together. If we have that kind of a mindset, then the entire industry will change. That's what I would like to say. It's a long answer for your short question.
It's all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. I think you're absolutely right that from the contracting nation to a design nation, there is a lot of effort which has to be done from the manufacturer as well as from the component partner also. And we are sure together differences and opinions can be brought in, and the strength of the design can be highlighted with India. So, but I would like to take up with Mr. Sangvi. Mr. Sangvi, when Made in India for India is the mantra of collaboration, how do we build in more trust in local footwear manufacturers to source more and more footwear components from India suppliers rather than going to competitive country just because they are few cents cheaper? I would request Sangvi sir, if you can unmute. Yeah.
Can you rephrase your question?
My question to you is like, when Made in India for India is the mantra of collaboration, how do we build in more trust in local manufacturers to source more and more footwear components from India suppliers rather than going to competitive country just because they are few cents cheaper?
See, it goes both ways. I'll be very frank with you. Like Indian shoe manufacturers goes to China, opens LC, pays in advance, and does everything.
Yeah.
And gets a few cents here and there. But when it comes to paying Indian, I mean, I'm not me. I'm talking in general. Oh, this, that, and it takes 4 or 5 months to pay. This is just one classic example.
Oh.
So that is one thing. But we also are equally to share the blame because we are not able to come out with something innovative, because we don't have the raw materials here. We don't have the technologies here. So if we have all these put together, then I think we will go a long way. I mean, Vipin can share because I am just a last maker. Vipin has more ideas on this. Sorry.
No. The first point is that we should have the ODM system, original design manufacturer. See, unless we follow this, we cannot bring the growth. We should not be a fabricator like that or like following a OEM. The buyer is sending the pattern and all those things, we will follow and all that. Why don't we develop ourselves? And second point is that what you said, the difference of price and all those things. Here I have another example that our Indian manufacturer, please don't mind it. Sometimes they don't realize it also, what quality they are looking for. Whether they are looking for 16 karat or 22 karat or 24 karat. See, we offer them 24 karat, but they want, no, you give me 16 karat. Then the price difference comes. See, a material I was given 3 times. One material, one was 190 GSM, another was 160 GSM, and third was 135. I don't know what material will be acceptable to my manufacturer and his principal manufacturer. The difference is there when you buy the fabric of 135 and when you buy see, actually our Indian shoe manufacturer should be very open. See, I tell you, if they put a target price and all those things, I think we can do sometimes some magics also to give them a better rate also. Better rate. We know that we are passing through a bad situation. I know that. Even during COVID time also, now from September to January, February, the prices of polymers has increased and plus minus how much. I know that our profits has gone down a lot. Still, we are trying to help them by giving them the best quality also and best prices also. We are ready to support. We are ready to. A level playing is required and a cooperation is required from the manufacturer. And asking for a good quality also is a good thing, I tell you. That is my submission.
Thank you, Mr. Seth. I think I would have three. I have three more questions because the questions keeps coming to myself. But I have a very direct question for you, Mr. Seth. There's a lot of discussion on innovation and with investment on research and development. How do you see this happening in India in today and in future? Like more investments on research, development, and innovation.
It is required. Unless we produce new things, we cannot grow at it. Not grow. Look at the sustainable fabrics and the sustainable products, what the buyers are looking for. American are looking, youngsters are going to the market and finding a product which is have a more sustainable product, component and all those things. We have to, and people are ready also. And I think there is a mind change also. We are as a component manufacturer, innovations and soles are going on, fabrics are going on, trims are going on. I hope in another after this after 3 4 months the market will open clearly and we will start traveling also. More new products and challenges will be acceptable by our industry.
Okay, thank you. So my last two questions for Mr. Mohan. Mr. Mohan, there's a lot of focus of the made in India products. Where do you see this industry needs to invest to take the brands to compete at global supply chains? The made in India brand.
First thing, I just wanted to kind of, clarify it from the global perspective, and we have to get this perception right. The customer buys a brand. He doesn't care whether it is made in Bangladesh or in Ethiopia or Timbuktu. He buys a brand in the marketplace, right? So, say many times, this is where the disconnect is. We have to make in India. We have to make in India of international quality standards and compete with the brands everywhere, around the focus, like you want first is we have to create an image of India as a quality, high quality, and consistent on-time delivery supplier. This is a challenge which we all have. I'm saying like this is something which our IT industry has done exceedingly well. Our industry has done exceedingly well. And apparel industry has also done to a large extent. Now the turn of the footwear industry. And I'm sure, like if we kind of focus on the quality and the timely delivery, it's not just the quality. There are three things, which every supplier is evaluated. It's a quality, it's a timely delivery, and the price comparatively to the global standards and the price. If we can kind of, if we fail in any of one of these parameters, then we go to the last this thing. It is not in the international market, for example, it is not selling into the stores. It is selling out of the stores, which we call it in the retail trade as sell-throughs. If the sell-throughs of your product is not that good, then you are not rated as a very good supplier. You might make the best of the product and not timely delivered or something. The sell-throughs are very, very important. So Made in India is a phenomenal opportunity for all of us. We have to take a lot of pride in our product. You have to take a lot of pride, and that pride will come only when you make a high quality product and deliver it on consistently on time. And this thing, that's where we need to take our pride. This is what I would love to take my pride on that only. Like Made in India, produced excellent, delivered on time, sell-throughs are excellent, and price better than anybody. That's I might sound hypothetical, and worldwide you get competed that way only. This is what I would like to tell you.
I really like your point to design, develop, and deliver at your doorstep. But what do you feel like the digital first strategy for various brands will help in global markets?
Sorry, can you repeat it, please? Because there are disturbances.
So I really like your point to design, develop, and deliver at your doorstep. I was just asking if the digital first strategy would really help the Indian brands to deliver in global markets.
Yeah, it will help a lot of to a large extent. First is the understanding of the customer. The understanding of the customer is very, very critical. Like we touched upon that when we spoke about the Zara and Marks and Spencer and other people. Understand, like what sells. Let me tell you that what sells in Sweden or in Denmark is completely different to what sells in south of Spain and in Italy, south of Italy. because it's a completely different customers, different types of footwear, and a completely different fashion orientation. So for us, in that's the reason I said, like, we need to involve all these design schools. We need to kind of get, the digital first will definitely improve. We can go digitally, see the world, what happens, what is it selling, which brand is selling what, and everything. We can draw a lot of inspiration out of it. That digitization is going to help a lot. I'm not saying that. But having said that, we need to kind of build a culture, how to explain it, like, for example, I'm coming from a converter mindset, right? Give me your last, give me your sole, give me a pattern, and let me try and make the shoe for you at the price what you want. I'm coming from that kind of a mindset, and I need to kind of graduate into a different mindset. Like, for example, let me review your customer base, look at your products, look at your markets, and let me kind of do something which, looking at the gaps in your range, for example, and then developing something and specifically for you. Like I tell you, so like that's a kind of a skill set which we need to develop, which is there in India, but we need to develop right from the curriculum, right from the younger, this thing in the universities, when they come into the trade, you need to kind of develop them with this kind of skill set. Like I tell one other example, if you put a footwear in front of somebody and ask to comment today, what is special in the shoe? 60 to 70% of the people will say that this is this sole, this is this leather, and this is made of cow, this is made of buffalo, this is made of non-leather, this is made of PU, and that's the kind of a questions you will have. But like, you need to kind of develop this competence, saying that, oh, this is the shoe which will sell in this market at this kind of a price. You understand that? Like, this is the shoe which is ready, which is good for, say, California. What sells in California and what sells in eastern part of eastern area of America are completely different shoes. They're completely different footwear. So we need to create people. We need to kind of show them. Digitization will help. Show them, this is what happens, and show them more and more such things, so that you create a mindset, a completely different mindset. It's a time-consuming process, but I'm sure we'll be able to do it if we have that. Like, if we say that, look, we want to create it over the next 3 to 5 years, there is a good opportunity to create something like that.
Yeah, thank you. I think our panelists have a little other commitments also, but just for the benefits of the audience, my last three questions: one for Ketanji, another for Vipin Sethji, and for Mohan, Mr. Mohan. Ketanji, to increase the footwear production, component industry needs to expand. How are we working on this? Because manufacturers will always come back with a lot of innovation products and challenges to us. So how is the component industry ready to take on the request of the manufacturing sector?
Given the right opportunities, I'm sure our component manufacturers are ready and to increase their capacities of bringing in more innovative products. It's just a matter of time that this will happen. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Mohan, my last question to you on the day. You raised a point of telling the brand India story very impactfully to global audience. How do you tell the very inspiring youngsters across the country? There are a lot of young students from FDDI who's really watching across our digital assets. So, what is your message to the generation coming next into the businesses in terms of developing a good brand India story?
Thank you very much, Vaibhav. To be very honest, I would have been very, very happy to be some 30 years younger. So this is the right time to be in the industry. Because when we all came into the industry was struggling, and then I still remember Vipin said, like, we used to kind of import laminated lining from Didi and Gori in Italy, and then he created something which is a India substitute for us, and we felt it's a great thing. So I'm saying, my message to the youngsters is, like, try to learn as much as possible. It could be a motherhood statement. I'm saying, like, just don't bring in any biases in your mind. This is more, I would say, that just don't bring in any biases. And if we have to create the brand India story well, where is it we are lacking? India, what is like I showed in my slides, we have huge opportunity. We have got employable labor and we have got labor rates are at, where is it we are lacking? We are lacking in design development. And again, I would not say design development as such. Our ability to comprehend the customer requirements and creating products which will kind of sit in the shelves. Let me put it this way. I'm just saying that, like we are not, so if we develop that skill set, it's not that designing a shoe, whether the shoe is commercially viable and who is the right customer. The customer has to be a center of everything you do in your business. Customer need to be center of everything you do in your. If the customer is not there, you don't have a business. So you need to kind of define that, learn a little bit more on the customer side, and be open to everything. And again, I would say that follow your heart, don't follow your brain. Let me say, I always followed my heart, and that's why I ended up in the shoe trade. That's a different this thing. We'll have a different session on that some other day. But I'm saying like, dil ki suno aap. Matlab, that's what I would say. And don't, go by, let any of these biases come in. Please have an open mind. Please have an open mind. I'm saying there are three things which I tell every student. Be open to everything and don't think there is a problem. Just put a maybe in your heart. The next day morning, your mind will at least tell you 6, 7 solutions for the same problem. Listen carefully, observe, and you will be an excellent conversationalist. Second thing is don't criticize, everything. अरे गवर्नमेंट ये नहीं कर रही है ये नहीं कर मतलब like we are an there's a book called Argumentative Indian like which I don't want any of you to read, but we are all very very argumentative and then we all have opinions of our own. So just like I would say that appreciate genuinely the things around you. You guys have got a fantastic opportunity and phenomenal opportunity. Like I said, I would have been happier if I had been 30 years younger because there's an excellent opportunity waiting in the wings. Because to be in part of the India growth story is something unbelievable. And you all have a fantastic future. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching us live. I would rather like to thank my fellow panelists, Mr. Vipin Seth and Ketanji, for joining us at the very last moment. Thank you for your spirits all the time, for inspiring us and building up and innovating new products into the country. I would, on behalf of FICCI and on behalf of FDDI, I would like to thank everybody. Thank you, Pallavi, and thank you, Deepti, for having us in the session. And thank you, Mr. Mohan, for always inspiring us with your great and sessions. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Please join us for the next session. Very, very kind of you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the dignitaries for gracing the occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.